Hi, good day everyone. This is Daniel again from Gardscape Designs, and today we have another garden tip. So today we want to talk about variegation. Variegation on our bromeliads. Now there are different types of mutation that you would find on the many bromeliads that we would have in our garden. But today we want to focus on variegation. So what is variegation? Variegation is basically different levels of chlorophyll. Different levels of chlorophyll that a plant would have, basically. So let's take a look at this plant here. So the chlorophyll is the green area of the plant here, and it's used to create food for the plant basically and for it to grow. These plants are usually very easy to care for, very easy to handle, as opposed to variegated plants or plants with less chlorophyll production. So sometimes you would have a plant with quite a lot of variegation in it, whether it's arbor variegation or whether it's regular variegation, and the plant may not grow properly. It might grow slow, it might grow a bit sporadic, or sometimes even in some cases it would actually die. So let's just take a look at two plants that I have here. Two of my favorites, white walker variegated and white walker albo. If we look at this plant that I have, which is a mother plant, you would see it has very good variegation on it. This is the cream or the white area that you would see on the leaves. Very, very, very lovely variegation on this plant. But let's take a look at this white walker. You will notice that this white walker offset don't have so much of variegation as the bigger plant that you would see. You would see a great part of it has more chlorophyll in it, more green, and you would find other areas a bit white. Now, sometimes what it is you would find with these plants, variegation might be a bit unstable in some of the plants. So when the plant creates pups, you might get a fully variegated plant just like the mom, or it might be partially variegated. And in some instances, you would find where a partially variegated plant could make a pretty much fully variegated plant. So let's take a look back at this plant here. So this plant is crossed with a combination of different plants, which is Caroline variegated, Hannibal Lecter, normal beets, and Charadon rainbow. If this plant reverts, like in the case of this white walker, which is fully reverted, it goes totally green and it loses all the cream or the white area that you would see. However, you still have some maculation in the plants, which is the spotting, and you also have zonation to the tips of the leaves. Right? Now in this case, when a plant fully reverts, it will never go back to one of the parent plants. It may actually go to grow to a spot, so it might have a different variant shape of what it's actually supposed to be, but it will never go back to the parent plant. And in some cases, you would actually find a poorly variegated plant producing a very good variegated offset. Or sometimes you would find a plant start off as a good variegated offset, and then later down you would find that it starts to lose variegation, and vice versa. You can never tell with variegated plants, so only after time would tell. So let's just say if it is you have a very good parent plant, it would increase your chances of that plant having very good variegated pups. Let's take a look at this again. So we're still on the white walker here. So in some instances you would find that you may have huge plants like these, which is partially variegated, and when they start to produce pups, you would see you get a mixture of pups. Usually on the variegated side of the plant, you would tend to get a higher ratio of fully variegated pups. As opposed to the green side of the plant, you would get a likelihood of lesser variegated pups. Take a look at this picture there. This is my white walker albo that you're looking at. This is the plant when it was in all its glory, 3 foot wide. And you would notice on the parent plant, you're not going to see much variegation on it, or albomodulation or albo variegation as the case might be. You don't have much maculation on it or any sort of zonations. But take a look at some of its offsets. Now this plant gave me 25 pups. So let's just take a look at some of its offsets. You would see here, the offsets are actually looking better than the mother plant. It have all the relevant markings and all the different mutations that would give you a very good white walker albo. Because this plant is a little bleached and it is recovering from the hot sun that we had recently, you would find that it don't have that purple vein running down at the side of the leaf. Take a look at this next pop. This pop has, this plant I should say, because it's well over 1 foot now. You would see much more of the color on this plant, and it's a better specimen of what a white walker alba is supposed to be like. Now, this is one of the pups that was produced, and it was very late down in the parent plant's life stage. This is probably the 22nd or the 23rd pup. You will notice that the markings on this plant is not as strong as on this plant, and the leaves are a bit narrow as well. So sometimes what you're going to find is that when the plant it's going down or it's dying, the latter offsets, they will not be as strong as the previous offsets. Another note that I would like to actually point out is that sometimes they would buy a plant from a seller, right? So sellers in general, Gardenscape, all other sellers, it's very good to, inform, educate the client about the variegation on the plants or what have you. Sometimes they may have a plant, it may not have strong variegation. You can always tell the seller, the buyer, so that they could make an informed decision and stuff. And if it is that you buy a plant that has one level of variegation, a couple of months, a year down the road, 2 years down the road, 6 months down the road, it may not have that same level. It may have more, it may have less. This is Daniel from Gardenscape Design, and join us next week for another garden tip. Be safe, be blessed.